You're watching the FARC Low Dollar series on Fuel Spill TV. Welcome to the Karl Superstore in Jonesboro, Arkansas. No, we're not stopping by to trade our perpetual fuel spill internship for a real job on our way to the race. This is the race. The second annual Karl Superstore's Showdown, the 7th race of the Low Dollar Series Championship. Just like last year, this race will be held on a temporary street circuit, a little over 8/10 of a mile long, that tears through the Karl Superstore parking lot before pouring out onto East Highland Drive, and then turning back into the driveway that forms a tight and tricky chicane. 41 teams would show up to today's race, and all 41 of them will take the green flag. However, one of those entries, the second car fielded by the returning Empire Rent-A-Car Drive the Dream team, did not announce a driver until the day before the race. That's because that car, number 58, will be driven by the winner of the inaugural Empire Karl's Challenge. 16 randomly selected entrants who have never driven a race car before would get 8 laps to duke it out in identically prepared Felters from Empire's own fleet. These are road cars fitted with roll cages and racing harnesses. And the winner after those 8 laps would then go through a quick training process with Apex Racing School and Race Sim to get a FARC competitor's license, and will qualify for and start today's race alongside 42-year-old auto shop teacher Gail Gant, the other winner of the Drive the Dream contest for this weekend. Let's look at the lineup for the challenge, which was decided with a random draw. 18-year-old Bradley Race from Maryland, who says that Empire Rent-A-Car has helped him look good on date nights, will start on the pole alongside Ken McDonald. There are actually 2 Ken McDonalds in this race. The Ken McDonald in the number 16 was originally selected as one of the contestants for today, but all of his information started going over to the other Ken McDonald in the number 07. But fortunately for the rightful Ken McDonald, this issue was corrected just before this weekend. He'll be driving an extra Felter that was pulled right off of the Empire lot next to this Karl Superstore. It might not look pretty, but he's in. Todd Stokes starts in the 3rd spot next to Randy Garland. Starting 5th is Peyton Asbury from Indiana. 6th is 53-year-old Freddie Mosley from Cheyenne, Wyoming. The other Ken McDonald starts 7th, as we just mentioned, alongside Bill Roberts. Ryan Raver, at 67 years old, is the oldest driver in today's field. He starts in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 would be Russell Brown, who happens to work as a cart attendant at this very Karl Superstore. He's in today's race as part of a settlement after he was struck by a car that came off of the adjacent Empire lot. Starting 11th is Caitlin Nagebauer. 12th is Riley Kent, who has high praise for Empire's no questions asked rent and return policies. 13th is Jim Thompson, the former owner of the racing team, who has never driven a race car before, therefore he was eligible for this contest. 14th is Bobby Jones, the 20-year-old from Palmdale, California. 15th is Melissa Reed, who entered this contest at the insistence of her 6-year-old son, who is a huge racing fan and took a liking to Empire Rent-A-Car after seeing their racing sponsorship all over the place. And rounding out the field is 19-year-old Jessica Johnson from New York City. All these different drivers from all these different backgrounds have one goal today: to survive 8 laps and score themselves a FARC Low Dollar Series ride. Bradley Race leads Ken McDonald at the start. It's a fairly even start for everybody, but it all descends into madness heading into turn 1. Ken McDonald is around, and Ken McDonald goes into the wall. And just like that, almost the entire field has now had contact of some kind. There's Todd Stokes in that blue car going into the wall. Peyton Asbury escapes with 2nd. But the chaos continues into turn 3 as Todd Stokes is stuffed hard into the wall by Riley Kent. That hot pink car, Bill Roberts, gets into another spin, triggered by Jim Thompson as he runs into the back of this gaggle of cars here. And then he's going to spin himself into the chicane. Jim Thompson may have been around more race cars than anybody in this field, but that doesn't mean he's going to take to this whole driving thing well. You may have also seen Caitlin Nagebauer put herself into the wall. Peyton Asbury attempts a bump and run on Bradley Race. Either that or he just completely misjudged his braking point, but Bradley Race holds the lead for now. Russell Brown does not give himself nearly enough room getting around Jessica Johnson. He sends her around as Ken McDonald punts him into the wall, followed by the other Ken McDonald, pinning him against the wall. It's absolute pandemonium in the opening laps of this race, but that's probably why these cars were fitted with extra safety features, as Bradley Race just goes straight into the turn 1 wall and drops all the way to 4th, as Peyton Asbury takes the lead, only to nearly lose it with a little bit of contact from Freddie Mosley. Randy Garland in that silver 01 car slips into 3rd, but smashes right into the back of Freddie Mosley going into turn 3. And I think that's going to be the end of the race for Freddie Mosley, as Bradley Race moves back into 3rd. Here comes Bobby Jones, now running a very distant 4th, and who I mistakenly identified as Jessica Johnson earlier. But it would soon be Ken McDonald moving back into 3rd and executing a bump and run on Randy Garland for 2nd. This may be a short race, but we've still got lapped traffic as Peyton Asbury puts a lap on Jessica Johnson. But Ken McDonald has no patience for Johnson. He wipes both of those cars out heading into turn 3, allowing Peyton Asbury to drive off into the distance, although it looks like McDonald is still going to hang on to 2nd as Peyton Asbury comes off of the final corner and wins himself a FARC Low Dollar Series ride. Hopefully he will get good training as he spins himself out on his victory lap, and that his FARC debut will be a little cleaner than today's race. And now here is the starting lineup for the main event at the Karl Superstore's Showdown. Wiley Durbin scored the pole over Patrick Ashcroft. Skeeter Farnsworth, the rookie for Power Surge America, has a very good 3rd place qualifying effort, followed by Jeffer Jackson with a great effort of his own, starting in the 4th spot. Megan Gallagher for Big Mac Racing starts in 5th, followed by Grant Carsons, coming off of a runner-up finish to his teammate Michaela Perry-Jones at Nelson Ledges last week. Noah Dalitz is looking for a bit of vengeance after being disqualified from his 3rd place run last week. He starts in 7th with Rick Forrest in 8th. M. Mark starts 9th with Durain Ridman, who escaped injury from that huge crash last week, starting in 10th. Anthony Griffith's 4th place last week was his best finish of the season. He's looking to do a bit better today as he starts 11th. Aaron Coltier starts in 12th. Hunter Blaze starts 13th. He was another one of the drivers in that huge crash at Nelson Ledges. Also escaped injury. Christopher Holter turned in a surprisingly good lap for the Salvation Racing team. He starts in 14th. Nicholas Radcliffe will be flying solo at Andy Pearson Racing. Billy Ray Smith Thompson was the 3rd of the drivers in that big crash at Nelson Ledges, and unfortunately, he will not be back in the car for some time. And the team just couldn't find an additional driver or funding for this week's race. Starting in 16th, taking a break from his rookie campaign in the ASCC, is Karl Hampton. This is a very special home race for Hampton, as Karl Superstores was founded and headquartered right here in Jonesboro by his great-grandfather, Karl Hampton Sr. He'll be reunited with his old FARC team, Walker Texas Racing, for this race. Mike Malone, starting 17th today, finally scored a top 5 last week. Rip Tyler is looking to finish a race for once. And rounding out the top 20 will be SWH Racing teammates Danica Hollifield and Tony Long. Xavier Ruiz starts 21st, 22nd is Taylor Matthews. Sergei Yakovsky rolls off 23rd, Todd Stater 24th. Stater's teammate for this race, Keegan Mallory, will be 25th. MJ Bakerman, once again getting a shot in the Accelerator Motorsports 41 car, starts 26th. 27th is Ellis Gideon in the number 64 M&J Racing entry from Utah. 28th is Harry Espinola. 29th, Lucas Fabian, making his FARC Low Dollar Series debut with the Concord, Carolina team today. And Michaela Perry-Jones absolutely dominated last week at Nelson Ledges to take the points lead, but she starts all the way down in 30th today. Daniel Lecklider is back, spending his off week from the TM Master Cup Series here in Jonesboro, where he dominated the first half of last year's race, only to fade late and even finish a lap down. He would like a much better result, but he's starting all the way back in 31st. Daniel Bouchard starts 32nd. Phyllis Theodore 33rd. Daniel Sharp, greatly out-qualified by his teammate Anthony Griffith, down in 34th. Mason Yokoyama 35th. Mauro Adachi, also greatly out-qualified by his own teammate Karl Hampton, all the way back in 36th. Todd Abadrabo 37th. Peyton Asbury, the winner of the Empire Karl's Challenge, 38th, out-qualifying his teammate Gale Gant. Bobby Dwyer, the sole representative of Team Burr in today's race, starts in 40th. And rounding out the field in number 669 is Ben Dover. If you looked at his car and thought, maybe FARC doesn't have any rules on how your car should look, you wouldn't be totally wrong. That part of the rulebook is indeed pretty light. With everything else finally out of the way, the pace car leaves the field in the hands of Riley Durbin, and the green flag flies on 80 laps around the Karl Superstore parking lot. Riley Durbin tries to get away, hoping not to become a part of any possible parking lot down in turn 1. 3 and 4 wide all the way down the field. But right now, Riley Durbin is all by himself out front, though we do have a caution on this very first lap. Todd Stater finds himself in the middle of the pack, bouncing off of his teammate, then MJ Bakerman, and he is sent for a spin. Daniel Bouchard with some heavy front-end damage on that 97 car, not many options for him, and Daniel Bouchard will become the first dropout in very short order. Riley Durbin hangs on to the lead, coming back to the caution and for the restart. Patrick Ashcroft still second, with Skeeter Farnsworth spinning himself out of third. That was a great qualifying effort from Farnsworth, but now he's given himself some work to do as he immediately takes that car into the pits, the 24 team scrambling to be ready for him. Not a bad call for Farnsworth to immediately dive in rather than ride around off the pace, waiting to diagnose any problems. Carl Hampton finds himself all the way back in 31st. I believe he made an unscheduled stop under that caution. He does have a little bit of damage on that front end. Not a good start for Hampton in his home race as he gets around Peyton Asbury, trying to claw his way back through the field. And then he smashes right into the back of Phyllis Theodore, taking Mason Yokoyama with him. That's going to take both of those cars out of the race on lap number 8. A huge, huge disappointment for Hampton after having this race circled on his calendar. Ellis Gideon, in his first start with M&J Racing this season, also faces a very early exit after that car goes up in smoke. Ellis Gideon races full-time in AmeriCar, so he's coming over to FARC to run some of the road and street circuits. His next race will be at Cottenham Farms. Peyton Asbury seems to have taken to his FARC competitor's license training very well. He's doing an extremely respectable job so far, running up in 28th, although he just lost that spot to Todd Abadrabo, letting him go in the chicane. A very wise rookie move. And now he's trying to hold off Taylor Matthews, who surprisingly has not gone anywhere since the start of this race. And you see his teammate Gale Gant just a couple positions back. Michaela Perry-Jones has gained 9 positions so far. Obviously, she would like a lot more than that, but she seems to be fighting an ill-handling car, as you just saw her smack the wall. And now she comes under fire from Keegan Mallory in the 6, Daniel Sharp in the 77 looking on. Michaela Perry-Jones trying to hold off Mallory through turn 1, and she seems to clear him. Passing seems to be especially difficult on this course. It can take about half a lap to set up and complete a pass around the inside, and that's if you are much faster than the car in front of you. If you're only marginally faster, it's gonna take quite a bit longer. Here is the very unique-looking number 669 of Ben Dover holding up this group, which includes Mark, who roughed him up a bit, not very happy with him playing interference. Ben Dover is currently the slowest car on the track. He's only gained positions by outlasting other people, but he might not last much longer if he's going to keep holding up people like this. Skeeter Farnsworth managed to stay on the lead lap after coming out of the pits, and now he's caught up to the back of the field, but Riley Durbin has caught up to him and is about to put him a lap down. Oh, Farnsworth hits the wall, and it looks like Riley Durbin's going to clear him and put him a lap down, which will put Farnsworth in an even bigger hole after the great qualifying run and start that he had. But Farnsworth, I think, is going to fight it. You saw Durbin bob a little bit heading into the chicane, and that opens up the door for the 24 car. Farnsworth gets alongside him, but Durbin's got momentum on the outside. Farnsworth stays a lap down for now, but dives into turn 1 and clears the 38 like he was fighting him for the lead. Farnsworth is definitely showing a lot of confidence in his car, and if he's going to go a lap down, he's certainly going to make Riley Durbin work for it. Now here's someone who isn't justified in fighting the faster cars. Bend over. He pinches Noah Dalitz into the wall, and that sends him around, giving us our second caution. Hunter Blaze and Aaron Coultier with heavy damage to those cars. Aaron Coultier will drop out of the race, but Hunter Blaze is, I was gonna say he's gonna stay in. He's got that points lead to think about, but apparently not, as he's roughing up Danica Hollifield. And then Hollifield's gonna blow up on her way into the pits. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the run-in with Hunter Blaze, but the 25's crew chief ran over to the 71's box and had some choice words for them. The FARC officials are looking into it, but the 71 team said that Blaze misjudged where Hollifield was going under the yellow. Meanwhile, we've got a wild restart brewing as Riley Durbin had two cars restart in front of him. Taylor Matthews and Skeeter Farnsworth, both on the tail end of the lead lap. I think Mike Malone got stuffed into the wall there, but it's a mad scramble for position up front. Here comes Megan Gallagher diving down to the inside of Patrick Ashcroft in the 99, getting together with the 58 of Peyton Asbury as she tries to go for the lead. 3 wide with the lapped car as Gallagher hangs onto the inside, and she's gonna clear Durbin and take the lead. Durbin's still running 3 wide with Grant Carsons now looking for second place, but Carsons dives down to the inside, challenges for the spot. It's gonna be a little tough to get that done. Here's what happened to Mike Malone. He restarted 7th but gets bumped by Noah Dalitz. 4 wide with Rick Forrest and the lapped car of Sergei Evkovsky. Nobody's giving an inch. Rick Forrest bounces off the inside wall, and Mike Malone absolutely stuffed against the outside wall. It's been a steady climb from the 17th starting spot for Mike Malone, but unfortunately that's going to get rudely interrupted. He's off the pace, holding up Tony Long in the 51 car. He's looking for room to get to the inside and head into the pit lane. It's been a very tough start to the season for Mike Malone, 4 DNFs in a row. He was hoping to get some momentum going after that top 5 finish at Nelson Ledges. Hunter Blaze was still running in the top 15 after that crash, but it looks like further problems are going to take him out, and he might have a penalty coming for that contact with Danica Hollifield under yellow. Riley Durbin looks like he's lost a little bit of momentum. I forgot to mention the entire field pitted under that last yellow, and either the cars in front of him got better, or Riley Durbin's crew went in the wrong direction, because he's now come under attack from Anthony Griffith for the 3rd spot. Sergei Yakovsky in the 82 follows him, but he's a lap down. Meanwhile, Grant Carsons puts the bumper to Megan Gallagher, looking for the lead. Carsons does have 2 runner-up finishes this season, and in both of those scenarios, he was the faster car chasing down the leader, but just didn't have enough time to make the move. And now it looks like he's got the fastest car once again, but much earlier in the race. Daniel Lecklider's been slowly working his way up through the field. He's up to 16th, challenging Xavier Ruiz for 15th as we hit the halfway point. This is his first FARC race since he was called up to the Master Cup Series for Team Thunder full-time. He is back with his own car, and he will be entering a few more of the upcoming races, including at General Grant and the Texas Motor Speedway. But right now he's focused on his fight with Xavier Ruiz. He tried to take him around the outside, and here comes Phyllis Theodore in the 74 car, who's also been working her way up through the field after a bad starting spot. Ruiz now has to try to hold off both of these cars. Daniel Lecklider's going to try around the outside again, and Ruiz twitches a little bit, but hangs onto the spot coming into the corner. Lecklider and Theodore not giving up, though. Grant Carsons has settled into the 2nd spot once again. He's lost a bit of ground to Megan Gallagher, but she runs wide out of turn 1, giving him another chance. She opens the door, and she really got a bad exit off of 2. Grant Carsons wastes no time in clearing the 22. Grant Carsons to the lead, chasing down his first FARC win. Megan Gallagher tries to fight back around the outside, and that pesky Skeeter Farnsworth continues to get in the way. Noah Dalitz in the 63 and Rick Forrest in the 60 are also a lap down. Anthony Griffith in the Steelhawk number 7 car is still back there in 3rd. You're going to see how desperate Skeeter Farnsworth is to stay on the lead lap, blocking Carson's all the way down the backstretch. I'm surprised that Carson's doesn't dump him heading right into turn 3, but he's going to get the run anyway, and he's going to clear the 24 without much of an issue. Megan Gallagher clears him too, so Skeeter Farnsworth put up a valiant effort, but he is officially out of the way. Daniel Sharp has made a huge charge through the field after starting 34th, and takes his teammate completely by surprise. His road racing experience from running part-time in AmeriCar is certainly paying off, as he challenges Anthony Griffith for third, but Griffith fights back around the outside, and these two are now coming up on the 24 of Skeeter Farnsworth. I'm not sure how much of a fight he's going to put up with them, but Sharp clears Griffith coming into turn 3, but not anymore. Griffith still hanging on, although now Sharp has the advantage out of turn 6. As I've said before, even if you have a good car, a lot of these passes are going to take a while to complete. Tony Long in the surviving SWH racing car is doing a good job moving up through the field. He just lost 12th to Keegan Mallory in the 6, but still a top 15 run is very good for this team. But here comes Phyllis Theodore in the 74, still slowly working her way up, with Danielle Leckleiter not too far behind. She did eventually get around the 10. And Christopher Holter in that 3 car for Salvation Racing is doing a good job hanging on to the top 15 as well. It was originally supposed to be Mo Lester in that 3 car for this race, but as it turns out, Mo Lester is still banned from every Karl Superstore in the Southeast region. Further ahead, Nicholas Radcliffe was running in 8th, but he dives into the pits at the end of lap 52. Nobody else is in the pits right now, but this could very well be a scheduled stop. The start of planned stops. With the nature of this track and some of the driving we've seen so far, I'm very surprised we've got a long green flag run going. MJ Bakerman is the next driver to make an apparent planned stop. Her team is stationed in this strip mall parking lot on the backstretch, and so is Daniel Leckleiter, who pits on the following lap. With how far back these cars are from the leaders, they are going to go a lap down, but they're banking on this run being long enough for them to get back around with fresh tires. Mauro Adachi has made his way up to 15th in the flagship Walker Texas racing car. He makes his own stop a lap after Daniel Leckleiter. Unfortunately, Adachi's pace has been pretty disappointing on the road courses when he was expected to do better on those. Ben Dover has collected another victim. It's Daniel Sharp in the 77, which opens up the door for his teammate Anthony Griffith to collect the 3rd spot once again. Ben Dover and all the lapped cars in general have been very difficult to negotiate with, due in part to this track being difficult to pass on anyway, but then Ben Dover kindly disposes of himself and gets out of the way of the 77. Daniel Sharp now has to try to chase down his teammate once again, who catches up to Megan Gallagher, maybe with a little help from Lucas Fabian in the 36 car. But Gallagher certainly started to drop off as this run got longer, and Anthony Griffith is going to attack her around the outside. We haven't seen too many people try the outside first, but Griffith kind of hurts himself by going into the grass. Griffith was just a couple laps short of winning this race last year, but Truman Ellison, of all people, put a late pass on him and went on to win. Griffith has not been to victory lane in 8 years. But now we've got a caution as Bobby Dwyer has a sudden problem and comes to a stop at the exit of turn 1. That's a terrible place to park that car. And this is what happens. Everyone gets bottled up and causes an even bigger mess. Michaela Perry-Jones and MJ Bakerman have gone into the wall. Bakerman certainly did not need this, on top of her pit strategy now going out the window with this caution as she was trapped a lap down. Meanwhile, Grant Carson's had a 13-second lead erased. But everyone is still catching up by the time the pits open, so he dives in, and he is easily going to maintain the lead coming out. And during this caution, MJ Bakerman goes up in smoke once again. Not sure if it's because of the earlier damage, but MJ Bakerman's first few FARC starts have all ended in the same way, as it looks like she's determined to smoke Accelerator Motorsports' entire stash of engines. And we've got a couple of stragglers breathing in that secondhand smoke as Bakerman limps into the pit lane. We're going to get the restart with just 10 laps to go, and Grant Carsons is completely trapped. Nicholas Radcliffe, Mark, and Rip Tyler are at the tail end of the lead lap, and Carsons has Megan Gallagher and Anthony Griffith right behind him, and several lapped cars to his left side. Now we've got trouble in the back. Several cars are around, and it looks like they're going to throw the yellow again. It's clean at the front so far, but for how long? A second accident just broke out off of turn 1. And lapped cars crash in front of the leaders. Taylor Matthews and Rip Tyler are blocking the track. These guys are trying to find a way through, but Megan Gallagher sneaks around the outside. We got one car up in smoke. That's the 63 of Noah Dowlitz. Oh, we're going to have a huge traffic jam heading into 3. Gallagher gets spun. Rick Forrest has heavy damage in that 60 car. That was just another 4-wide situation that turned out wrong, and Gallagher got cleaned out. All hell has broken loose on this restart. I think this might be worse than the opening lap of the Empire race, and we have no idea who the leader is right now. So much has gone wrong for our front runners on this restart. Gallagher crosses the line. I don't know where Grant Carsons is. We're now looking at the 74 of Phyllis Theodore. I think she's in the lead of this thing. Phyllis Theodore has snuck by all the carnage to take the lead. Keegan Mallory in the 6 car is now in second place. These two were nowhere all day. Grant Carsons in the 86 is being scored in third, and Theodore's now gone off the track. We're under caution, though. I think they're going to let her keep the lead. Several cars laid down oil all over the track heading into the pits. Rick Forrest and Noah Dowlitz were among them. But even under yellow, we're not safe from the carnage. Phyllis Theodore's gonna keep the lead. We're gonna go on board the 74 car and see just how she got by everything. She had made her way up to 11th, but she was in the middle of everything on this restart. Coming into turn 1, there's a huge stack up. The 68 of Deraine Ridman has gone around, and she gets trapped behind him. Boy, I think being behind everything now has given her an advantage. Coming out of turn 2, there's the stack up just to her right, and there's an opening right behind Harry Asinola. This line of cars has just barreled through everything. This includes several cars trying to get back on the lead lap. There's the smoking 63 car. Megan Gallagher in the 22 comes in around the outside to take the lead, but she gets cleaned out. The racing gods have shown Phyllis Theodore a lot of love on this restart, and she takes full advantage of it, finding herself in the lead, staring down her first FARC Low Dollar Series victory. But that car is wounded, and she's got several drivers behind her who want revenge. The green flag is going to come out with 5 laps to go. Phyllis Theodore has Keegan Mallory right behind her, and then Grant Carsons, who has dominated the last half of this race until now. Carsons immediately jumps to the inside of Mallory, but he doesn't have a whole lot of momentum. Theodore gets away as Carsons and Mallory fight for second. That's exactly what she wants to see. She wants to see the fastest car get caught up in traffic as Carsons continues to drag race with the 6 down the backstretch. Now, Phyllis Theodore is about 70 years younger than her name implies. She's come up under the wing of Armand Dilper of Dilper Transmissions and grabbed her first 2 Super Series victories last year after finishing dead last in that series standings just the year before. So she's come a long way in a very short amount of time. Meanwhile, Riley Durbin, your pole sitter, is finding a little bit of speed again as he makes the move on Mallory for third, but it might be too little too late as Carsons and Theodore have sailed away. Durbin still hasn't quite cleared the 6 heading into the chicane, which is where some comebacks have successfully been made, but into turn 6, Durbin finally secures the 3rd spot. Mallory continues to hold off Anthony Griffith for 4th. 2 laps to go now. Carsons is right on the 74's back bumper, but passing has been very difficult here. Track position could be key for Theodore if she hits her marks. This team, the FSD group, has visited Victory Lane in the FARC Low Dollar Series before. All three of their victories have come with Trek Togger at the wheel on road courses. So, this is very familiar territory for this team, but they have not been in Victory Lane for a while. Phyllis Theodore trying to get them back there. Grant Carson's lost a lot of ground off of turn 6. Coming to the white flag, this might be what Theodore needed, but Grant Carson's is absolutely sick of finishing second to slower cars. He gained all that ground back in turn 1 alone. And now Carson's throws it to the inside of Theodore. She leaves the door open. And now it's a drag race down the backstretch with Grant Carson's and Phyllis Theodore. But Carson's just inching ahead as Riley Durbin tries to catch up and make a last-ditch move. Carson's takes the lead into 3. I think Phyllis Theodore had nothing left for him. Theodore throws it way wide in the chicane, opening up the door for Durbin. And Grant Carson's is going to come across the line to take his first FARC Low Dollar Series victory. Drag race for second. And Theodore's going to hold off Durbin. Theodore may have just lost the race in the last half lap, but that was a hell of a final run for her. Nothing to be ashamed of. But everything finally came together for Grant Carson's today. Can you believe that he started his Low Dollar Series career by failing to qualify for his first race? And with some of the dominant runs that Durbin Sport Racing has had lately, we could be looking at FARC's next powerhouse team. As for the rest of the field, which got quite jumbled up after that wild restart, Keegan Mallory held off Anthony Griffith for 4th place. Megan Gallagher relegated to 6th after having the second fastest car for much of the day. Doreen Ridman got spun on the second to last restart, but still came back to finish in 7th. Sneaking through all the carnage like Theodore did. Daniel Sharp down in 8th place was quite a bit faster than that. Patrick Ashcroft, the second place starter, settles for 9th, and Harry Asanola also had a shot at the lead on that crazy restart, but wasn't meant to be. Mauro Adachi finishes a very respectable 11th, considering how he qualified. Mark Wood end up 12th in the car that won last year's race. Jefford Jackson, I didn't talk about him much. He ran in the top 5 in the early part of the race, but faded down to just outside the top 10. Sergei Akovsky and Taylor Matthews got back on the lead lap and bring home top 15 finishes. Michaela Perry-Jones didn't come anywhere near to repeating her success at Nelson Ledges last week as she settles for 16th. Nicholas Radcliffe and Daniel Lecklater were nearly screwed over by that late caution, but they ultimately dodged all the crashing to get back onto the lead lap. Todd Abadrabo grabs a top 20 finish, the last car on the lead lap, in fact, and Rip Tyler finally finishes a race this season, rounding out the top 20. 25 out of the 41 starters finish the race, with Gail Gant, the last of the finishers, in the Empire Drive the Dream machine. Unfortunately, her teammate Peyton Asbury got caught up in that big mess and dropped out, finishing 30th, even though he outpaced his teammate for much of the race. Christopher Holter was also on his way to a good finish before getting caught up in the restart from hell. And then, of course, everyone from here on back dropped out. Hunter Blaze would end up not being penalized, the officials believing his side of the story. Carl Hampton all the way down in 39th. Did not last very long in the race he was looking forward to the most. And in last place, dropping out in the very first corner, was Daniel Bichard. And now let's look at the point standings after a race that brought a lot of trouble to our leaders. Michaela Perry-Jones hangs on to the lead by just 1 point over Taylor Matthews. Mauro Adachi is back in 3rd place. Grant Carson's vaults all the way to 4th. Hunter Blaze knocked back to 5th. Daniel Sharp traded places with Mark, and Todd Stater, Patrick Ashcroft, and Harry Asanola round out the top 10. Anthony Griffith sits in 11th, overtaking Billy Ray Smith-Thompson, who, rumor has it, might be coming back in next week's race at General Grant Speedway. He'll have a cast on his left leg, but I don't know if that's going to stop him. Some of these drivers are pretty far back in the points, but they have more limited starts, while the front runners, who have run every race, are going to start having the best of 8 rule kick in after next week's race. So some of these guys who have run limited races, like Durain Ridman and Riley Durbin so far, could start catching up later on in the season as they approach their 8 races. Once again, next week's race will take place at the General Grant Speedway in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, for a Memorial Day special. And as always, you'll be able to catch the highlights right here on Fuel Spill TV.